Hi students, this is Mr. Yao. In the last lesson, we have learned adding and subtracting functions, and now we're going to spend some time with multiplying functions. In this first lesson, it actually started from something that you have learned before, which was distribution and combining like terms. So let's do a quick review on some prior knowledge. When you see a number outside parentheses, we're going to need to distribute it into the parentheses. That's going to give you 2x plus 6. Same thing with the second one, x times 2x, and x times negative 4. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times negative 4 is a minus 4x. Next one, 3x squared times x, that gives an extra x, which becomes 3x cubed. Then 3x squared times negative 5y. The number multiplied together is going to give you 15. And then the x squared and the y can't be multiplied together, so we just write them next to each other. Next, multiply. We got negative 24x minus 6x squared, then plus 3x to the fourth power. But that's not fully done because we typically need to put our answer in standard form, which again means we need to put the exponents into descending order. So the highest exponent need to be in the front. 3x to the fourth power minus 6x squared minus 24x. Let me correct something I just said. It's not just the exponent. It's actually going to be something called the degree needs to be in descending order. And in next year, secondary 2, you will actually learn more about how to identify degrees when you have more variables. Now let's move on to more definition. Coefficient, the number in front of the variable. So for example, 4x squared or negative 5x cubed, that 4 and the negative 5, these are coefficients. Constant is the number without any variable attached to it. Multiplying functions, just like in the previous lesson, we have seen the notation, which was f plus or minus g of x. We just need to change that plus minus sign into multiplication, which actually means f of x times g of x. We simply connect the two functions with the given operations, and then distribute and combine like terms. The final answer should be in standard form. The distribution, of course, will work slightly differently, so we'll get into the examples right away. But the important thing, don't forget the signs in front of each term. So for example, this negative 4x cubed, let's say if you have 2x squared minus 4x plus 2, this middle term is actually negative 4x. Don't forget the negative sign. And just like adding and subtracting functions, we also have two main approaches for multiplying functions. Plug the given value into each function and then perform the operation, or perform the operation with the functions and then plug in. So you can either plug in at the beginning, then multiply the results, or you can actually do the operations with the variables and then plug the answer into the final answer. Example 1, box method. So here's the first method. We'll actually learn two different methods. Box method, of course, just like it sounds, we need to draw a box. As for how big the drop box is, in the first function, well, since we're multiplying both functions, in the first function we have two terms, which means we're going to need, and the second function has two terms as well, so we need a 2 by 2 box. And then we are going to put the function on the side of the box. As for if you put f of x vertically or horizontally, it doesn't quite matter, as long as you actually put them on either here or on the top. So let's say we're going to put x plus 2 on the top. So it's x as the first term, a positive 2 as the second term. Make sure you carry the signs with them. And that means the gx is going to be x and plus 5. The reason we put them this way is because every single term needs to be multiplied with every single term in the other function. So this box makes sure that happens. So first, x times x, that is going to be x squared. And then plus 5 times x is a plus 5x. X times plus 2 is a plus 2x. And then plus 5 times plus 2 is a positive 10. So now we can actually start writing the answer. F times g of x is going to be, we'll just copy down all the terms that we got from the box. X squared plus 2x plus 5x plus 10. Then, of course, we still need to combine like terms. X squared plus 7x plus 10. There you go. And then we calculate f times g of negative 3. F times g of negative 3. Still, again, two different methods. you can either plug into the function that we already got since we have just calculated f times g. It's going to be -3 squared plus 7 times -3 plus 10. That is going to be positive 9 minus a 21 plus a 10, so it's a -2. That's one method. The other method, let's say you didn't actually calculate what is f times g of x. And then, in that case, f times g of -3 is the same as f of -3 times g of -3. So you can calculate them separately. F of -3 is -3 plus 2, which is -1. G of -3 is -3 plus 5, which is a 2. So eventually, this is going to be a -1 times a 2, which is a -2. So these are two different methods to plug in. Example 2. You can pause here and try this using the box method by yourself. Hopefully you have tried. Let's have a look. First function has 2 terms. Second function also has 2 terms. So let's draw a 2 by 2 box. 2v minus 7 and 2v minus 7. So let's multiply them. 2v times 2v is 4v squared. Remember, when you multiply a v and an extra v, it's 2 together, so it's v squared. Then 2v times -7 is -14v. 2v times -7 is another -14v. Lastly, -7 times -7 is a positive 49. So f times g of v, we can actually combine like terms now. 4v squared minus 14v minus another 14v plus 49 is going to give us 4v squared minus 28v plus 49. There you go. That's after we multiplying. Now we need to plug in the number. F times g of 4 times 4 squared minus 28 times 4 plus 49. So that's going to be a 64 in the front. And then minus 112 plus 49. So it's actually 113 minus 112, which is a 1. That's example 2. Moving on, example 3. Now we're going to learn a different method, which is called the string method. Something you need to understand, when you multiply it, the key is as long as each term in the first function multiplied with each term in the second function, then that's the goal. We want everything to be multiplied with everything. So these are just two different representations to make sure that happens. So let me copy it down. F times g of x is the same as 4x minus 1, that's the first function, multiplied with 5x plus 6. So the second method is called the string method, which means we're going to draw some lines to actually indicate what is happening. So first, we need to make sure the first term in the first function multiplied with the first term in the second function. So 4x and the 5x are going to be connected. That's going to give us 20x squared. And then we're still going to stay on the first term from the first function to multiply it with the second term in the second function. So that's 4x plus 6, times positive 6, which is a plus 24x. Okay, and then we're going to need to deal with the second term now, because we're done with the first term. The first term has multiplied with both of them in the second parentheses. So now it's the second term. -1 times 5x is a -5x. And then -1 times a 6, which is a -6. So you see, everything in the first parentheses have multiplied with everything in the second parentheses. Now we just combine like terms. So 20x squared plus 19x minus 6. And in all three examples so far, in case you haven't noticed, my final answers are always already in standard form because I made sure square is in the front, and then the first power is in the middle, and the number is on the back. Now it's time to plug numbers in. F times g of -4. So I'm going to use the separate method again. So f of -4 times g of -4. F of -4 is 4 times -4 minus 1, which is a -17. And then g of -4 is 5 times -4 plus 6, which is a -14. And eventually, we need to multiply them together. So it's -17 times -14, which is going to be a 238. There you go. That's example 3. Moving on, example 4. You can pause here and try this using the string method. Hopefully you have tried. Let's have a look. So g times h of r, let's set it up first. First function is negative 7r minus 5. Second function is 8r, negative 8r minus 4. So this is where you got to be really careful to remember that the sign goes with the term. So the first term is actually negative 7r, not just the 7r. So we need to use that to multiply with the first term inside the second parentheses, which is negative 8r. These two multiplied together is going to give us a 58, a positive 58 r squared. So negative 7 times negative 8 is positive 56. Then you have r times another r, that's r squared. And next, negative 7r times the negative 4. That's going to be a positive 28r. Then negative 5, so that's our second term. Negative 5 times negative 8r is going to be a positive 40r. And then negative 5 times negative 4 is going to be a positive 20. Eventually combine like terms. 56r squared plus 68r plus 20. Something, in case you still haven't noticed, this is kind of the same as distribution. It's just you have to distribute each of the term from the first parentheses to the whole second parentheses. And that's why we'll end up with 4 terms in the middle step. Now it's time to plug things in. So since the previous one I plugged in separately, this one I'm going to plug it in together. G times h of 6. Let's plug it in. We got 56 times 6 squared plus 68 times 6 plus 20. That's going to be a 2016 plus, that is 408 plus 20. So it's going to be a 2, 4, 28, and 16 is going to be a 4. Yes. Okay, there you go. 2, 4, 4, 4. That's example 4. Now that you have learned both methods, for the rest of the questions, you can use either one, see which one you prefer. Okay, example 5. So this time, let's try the box method. The first function has 2 terms. The second function has 3 terms. You can draw either a 2x3 box or a 3x2 box, either way. So if you do a 2x3, it will be set up like this. The 2 terms, x and positive 5. And the 3 terms, x squared, negative 3x, or and a plus 2. So that's if you do a 2x3. And you can also do a 3x2. Then just the 2 terms are going to be up here, and the 3 terms will be on the side. But they will give you the same result. So it doesn't quite matter which way you set them up. X times x squared, so you have 3x's now, so it's x cubed. X squared times the 5 is a 5x squared. Negative 3x times x is a negative 3x squared. Negative 3x times the 5 is a negative 15x. 2 times x, 2x. 2 times 5 is 8x. Okay, now we can just put everything together. G times h of x. I just copy everything together, but I already copied them down in order. So I look for the highest exponent first, so x cubed, and then negative 3x squared and 5x squared. So negative 3x squared, 5x squared. Next one is negative 15x and 2x. So minus 15x plus 2x, and eventually a plus 10. So you see, when I write them into the answer, it's already in order. And then I just need to simplify them, combine like terms. Then it's already going to be in standard form. So x cubed plus 2x squared minus 13x plus 10. Now let's plug in g times h of negative 1. So it's negative 1 cubed plus 2 times negative 1 squared minus 13 times negative 1. And plus a 10 on the end. First one is a negative 1. Second one is a positive 2. Then is a positive 13. And is a plus 10 on the end. So that's going to be a 1 plus 13 plus 10, which is a 24. That's example 5. Moving on. Example 6. So this time, since the previous one I used the box method, you can still choose to use the box, but for this one, I'm going to use the string method, just for you to see both methods would work. G times h of a, first function is 3a plus 2, second function is 4a squared minus a minus 5. I'm going to use the first term, basically distribute that into the second parentheses. So 1, 2, and 3, because I have 3 different things in the second parentheses. 3a times 4a squared is a 12a cubed. 3a times negative a is a negative 3a squared. 3a times negative 5 is a negative 15a. And then I'm going to use the second term, distribute it into the parentheses. So it's going to be 2 times 4a squared is a positive 8a squared. 2 times negative a is a negative 2a eventually. 2 times negative 5 is a minus 10. Now it's time to combine like terms. 12a cubed stay in the front. Then we have negative 3a squared and the positive 8a squared together. That is plus 5a squared. And then we have negative 15a and a negative 2a. So it's negative 17a. Eventually a minus 10. Now it's time to plug in. G times 8 of negative 3. It's a 12 times negative 3 cubed plus 5 times negative 3 squared minus 17 times negative 3 minus 10. So the first one is going to be 12 times negative 27. That's going to be a negative 324. Then 5 times a positive 9 is a plus 45. Next one is a plus 51. Eventually a minus 10. So we have negative 334. This is a plus 96. That's going to give us a negative 238. There you go. That's example 6. Moving on. Last one, example 7. Well, this time, same thing, but we can use the box. First function has 2 terms, second function has 2 terms, so let's do a 2 by 2. X and positive 3, negative 2x cubed, and a plus 5x squared. Let's multiply them. X times negative 2x cubed is a negative 2x to the 4th power. And then 3 times negative 2x cubed is a negative 6x cubed. X times 5x squared is a 5x cubed. And then 3 times 5x squared is a 15x squared. Right? F times g of x is going to be negative 2x to the 4th plus 5x cubed minus 6x cubed plus 15x squared. So the only two are the like terms. You're going to get negative 2x to the 4th power minus x cubed plus 15x squared. There you go. It's time to plug in negative 2. So we got a negative 2 times a negative 2 to the 4th power, then minus negative 2 cubed plus 15 times negative 2 squared. So the first one, that part is a 16 times negative 2 is a negative 32. That's a negative 8 with a negative sign in the front is a positive 8. Lastly, 15 times 4 is a plus 60. So we basically got 68 minus 32. That is going to be 36. That's example 7, and that's everything for this first multiplying function lesson. Thank you.